Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see a full house. Before we begin, we acknowledge that we're in the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe peoples and the Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge that we have important neighbors, the Wata Mohawks and the First Nations of Moose Deer, Shawniga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Hemby Inlet, Nipissing, and the Dokis. As we're learning from our First Nation partners, I want to stress the importance of accepting all of our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration, guidance, and the living memory of our communities. We must ensure that the decisions we make today will take into consideration the future of our children and that of their children's children. As settlers on this land, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. So I call the meeting to order, and we have an addendum with additional correspondence for items 5A for Cunningham and 5C for LeCoyer. Somebody got their, what are we getting, an echo? I'm just wondering if someone has their speaker on at home.
Yeah.
It's not bothering anybody else? Okay. So with that addendum, could I have the approval of the agenda? Thank you. And is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? No. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of council held on October 7th as circulated. Could I have a mover? Ted? All in favor? I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matters. Zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-0021-H for Cunningham. Zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-0019-F for Skirch. And zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-0025-F and consent application number B 2024-0020-F, B 2024-0021-F, and B 2024-0022-F for LeCoyer. Could I have a mover to move into public? And the seconder, thank you, Mario. All in favor? Council will now hold public meetings as proposed for consent and zoning bylaw amendment applications. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to granting a consent or passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment and who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide your full name and address to the deputy clerk. No one other than the prescribed persons may appeal an application under the provisions of the Planning Act. If they do not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin prior to the decision of Council, then the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-0021-H for Cunningham is to amend the Shoreline Residential 1 zone to Shoreline Residential 1 exemption zone to permit a new dwelling and the conversion of an existing cottage to a guest cabin. I now ask the deputy clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which the notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on September 6, 2024. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
Correspondence has been received from Paul J. Coyne.
Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application? Please raise your hand if you, okay. If you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium and introducing yourself and your address, and also pushing the little button so that the green light goes on so that people on Zoom can hear you.
Hi, I'm Grant Cunningham. My wife Julie is here as well. We own 45 Halliley Road, so we're just basically here to answer any questions that anyone might have or council would have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Cunningham? Has anyone registered to speak to this application via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to this application via electronic participation.
No questions. Oh, Councillor Collins has a question.
I'm old school, and I just don't, oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm old school and I apologize for being on my phone, but I'm trying to get the square meters or the square footage of the existing house on that you want as a cabin.
It's on that one drawing.
108 or 102.8 meters?
That's how many meters from the shoreline. That's the distance from the shoreline to the,
Or 100 and, oh, okay, it's 135 then.
yes.
What's the square footage of that? 135, if you don't mind.
We work in meters, so the permitted is 60 square meters and they're proposing
Yeah.
135 square meters. So all of the.
I'm
everything
just wondering
works.
if this will set a precedence in the, moving forward, especially down on, the bigger lakes. Because you're not basically allowed to have two houses on one lot. And you've already got a guest cabin in the boathouse. So you want to make this as a guest cabin at 135 square meter, which is how many square feet? 1,450, which is three times what the 60 meters is. That's allowable according to our official plan.
Cabin size, that's why we put in the amendment, but the only reason we're doing this is just to save the cabin because it is so unique. It was, I don't know if we sent pictures in of it. The man who built it was a woodworker, and it's like so unique. He literally took birch bark and wallpaper, the whole upstairs.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to make you stop because the green light has to be on or the people online can't hear anything you're saying.
Sorry.
Push it, go.
Okay, I see it. Sorry. So he took twigs, whittled them, cut them in half, and used that to hold all the birch bark. Like it's a one of a kind,
We're basically
It's a
just trying
piece of
to
art.
save that cabin, to be honest with you. That's the main reason. We could certainly apply to build.
most
When it's-
people likely would have tore it down to build a new one near the water. But we just thought it was unique, so we're just trying to preserve it.
And when it's off, so far off the shoreline, like over almost 400 feet from the shoreline, basically this cabin is right in the far corner. That's why we were just trying to preserve that if we could, that cabin type of thing. In all honesty, we really don't need it for a cabin per se, but we're
No.
just trying to save it
Save it, just
basically.
because it's sort of a Muskoka, like, treasure, really, if you.
And then you'll be building a house
Something
on
closer.
top.
No.
like
well,
another
yeah,
cabin, but
Yeah, but-
closer to the.
No, I understand that. So basically you're gonna have two cabins, two guest cabins, and one cabin being as big as a house,
And
1,400
when
square
we
feet.
did first buy that property.
I'm just,
We did have two cabins on the property.
yeah,
And we took one down. Like it had like a kitchen, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom,
I
a
don't-
living room, and we took it down.
what does this cabin have?
This,
Or the maximum guest cabin, the one that you've,
well, it's like a cottage. It has a kitchen,
a bathroom?
a bathroom, living
How many
room.
bedrooms?
There's
Couple of
3
bedrooms.
Oh, it's a home.
upstairs and 2 downstairs.
They're very small, little. I mean, it's an old cabin. It's a
Yeah.
100-year-old cabin. So basically they're very small.
Barely, like just enough room to walk around the bed type of thing. I sent pictures in.
Yeah, I'm going to ask our Director of Planning to weigh in. He's got his hand up. So Taylor, over to you.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Carl Collins. I ran the numbers, it's about 1,400 square feet. The cottage will have to be converted to a guest cabin, so in that regard, the kitchen removed, and the proponent is aware of that. I think the main thing which differentiates this application from other ones, it's going to be set back about 102 meters or 330 feet from the shoreline. So when staff did a site visit, they said it will be invisible from the lake. So from a character perspective, there is no impact on Lake Joseph. Hence why staff can be in support of this oversized guest cabin and the amount of them, because there shouldn't be any character impact. And environmentally, since it's set back so far from the water's edge, there shouldn't be any phosphorus loading or septic concerns associated with this structure.
Well, then my question will be, does this set a precedence?
Through your
Moving
worship,
forward.
no, it wouldn't set a precedence. There is no precedent in planning, and in situations like this, it has to be evaluated on the merits of it. So if someone else wanted more than what the zoning bylaw permits, you would have to explore what is being proposed. Situation like this, the significantly larger, it's about 5 times larger than our normal setback requirement. That's what differentiates this application from any other ones that would be coming in.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, you're next.
I think my thoughts was, you're only supposed to have 2 guest cabins on one lot. Taylor, is this under the 10%? I think it is for the builds on that property?
Through your worship, it would be under the 10%, and it's only 1 guest cabin that is permitted on a lot. So they're asking for 2 in this case.
Yeah, and it's, I know they have to take the kitchen facilities out. Now, is there gonna be a guarantee that after this place is signed off, that kitchen facilities will still stay out?
If they did that, that would be a zoning bylaw compliance issue. So if that occurred, there could be charges laid if there's a complaint or there's ever an investigation. In this regard, it's not really much different than any other application that we seek. So we can only catch them as we're aware of them.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Ted a bit that we're showing precedence on this because of the size of the sleeping cabin and it being an existing cottage. And in the future, if they ever put the kitchen back in, it'd be a cottage again on the same lot.
I think one of the conditions is the kitchen will be removed, and as
I did see
director,
that, yes,
yeah,
but
director
it's,
Gail.
it's
has to be monitored. Let's hear from Councillor Finson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I just say thank you for trying to preserve that piece of property. I know it's really important. The only other person I know that did something like that was Kurt and Goldie. When they bought their piece of property, there was the homestead on that property, and they left it there, and they left it as a guest cabin. Yeah. Of course, their place was enormous, but they never really had to use it. But when they were there, it was kept as that beautiful century home, and it was just lovely to see that they kept it, and they loved it. They kept it in high regard. So thank you for trying to do that, for doing that.
Thanks for appreciating that, but that's the point. It's really not to our benefit to keep this building. It's gonna cost us a lot more in taxes when we do build a new building, and all the upkeep on it, like, it's an old building, so you're constantly having to do upkeep, and you still have to keep heat and stuff to it, so
So, yeah. no,
it's
we-
not, we're just
That's-
wanting to keep it, because it is like a piece of history.
Counselor Bazinski.
I was just wondering, is this structure attached to the septic system?
Yes, it has a septic system, yeah. It won't,
Would,
if we build a new place, the new place will have its own septic system.
oh, okay, but it does have a septic system,
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Counselor Getty, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For Taylor, obviously this is a unique application with a historical piece of property on it, or a historical building on the property. My concern coming in was the same as what Councillor Collins was, but I just want to confirm with you, this will not set a precedent for us, with the two guest cabins, which I know we've had certain situations where they've already pre-existed anyway, but the actual size of it as a guest cabin, that won't set a precedent for us being in excess of 100%.
Through your worship, no, it won't create any precedent for us, and if anyone tried to use this as an example of how we've done the past, the other merits of the application then should be explored, is like, well, it had 5 times the minimum setback that is typically required, so there is the biggest, I think, goal of the official plan is preserve the character and the natural feel of the water. And given that this is 330 plus feet back, and although it's oversized and although there's one more, there is no visual impact whatsoever, nor environmentally, because typically 30 meters is all a leaching bed needs in the highest of scenarios, and this would be much more than that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much. We'll move on. And then after we come out of the public meeting, we will address the vote. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-0019-F for Skirch is to amend the zoning bylaw to permit the construction of a detached carport. Exemptions to the lot coverage and front yard setback are requested. I now ask the deputy clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on September 6, 2024. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
Just a moment. We're going to recognize the people in the audience in a moment. Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
I'd like to support the cat because maybe one day they become a landmark.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you then, but thank you for your comment. So is there anyone, oh, I'm sorry, could we have your name and your address?
Lot 31, section 10.
Okay, thank you. Now, is there anybody here in the council chambers that would like to speak in favor of or opposition to the Skirch application? Want to come up to the podium and give us your name and address and push the little green button?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Mark Skirtich. I'm here with my wife, Maury, to answer any questions anyone may have. History on my property, it was originally Carter's Camp, owned by Tom Carter. It had 3 cottages on it, a dryland boathouse, 4 6x12 bunkies, and a privy about 40 feet from the water. So that was 24 years ago. We've since obviously cleared all that, did a little bit of rezoning, and we've actually only have two buildings now on the property, the main cottage and the bunkie, which sits on top of the garage. So we reduced the clutter on the property. This carport is basically the purpose of just putting an umbrella over our cars, where we have complete coverage by pine trees where we are. We just raked up, the semi-annual 1-inch stick off our driveway. And the pine tar on the vehicles and pine needles that get jammed everywhere and every seal is just unbearable. Maureen's got technically disabled. She can't, I'm not there all the time, and she simply can't continue to clean off the car before she goes out easily to get around. And we're just looking at putting up a real nice timber frame carport, open carport. So open walls, just 4 timbers to hold it up, a little bit of lattice work to put an umbrella over our cars. And that's the purpose. It's on the existing driveway. It's not removing any vegetation. It's not doing anything except putting an umbrella over our cars on the driveway.
Thank you. Has anyone registered to speak to this application via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to this application via electronic participation.
I see our Director of Planning on. It says, council have any questions of Mr. Skirt? Ken? Councillor Adams?
Yeah, I just have the one question. I see it's only 15.85 meters from the shoreline.
Yeah.
Where you require 20. Is it not possible to move it back to 3 meters?
It'd be in the middle of the driveway.
Would it?
Yeah, if, I think it was, I apologize using your first name, Taylor, but I think it was Taylor was down. Somebody came to post a sign and took pictures of the location where the building's going. And he clearly understood that we couldn't go any further in front of the cottage, or else we've already got delivery trucks that are like inches from nicking our eaves trough of our cottage. And this would already be about 3 feet in front of that location. So if I pushed it up to 3 meters, I'd have to completely change our driveway and take down about 1, 2, 3, 4 trees to make that driveway, less of a horseshoe, a smaller horseshoe.
I noticed they didn't show a driveway in here, so.
Yeah, the drawing, I made it as detailed as I could, but
No, you did a good job. Looks good.
I could have shown the driveway, but I thought that when the gentleman that took the pictures it was pretty clear. It's like I can't go an inch forward, and I'm not going anywhere beyond the rocks that line the driveway. Like, I'm building it right to those rocks. So I'm basically not, I'm not encumbering any vegetation, any watershed, nothing. I'm just building a nice, open concept. I don't want to ruin my view any more than I want to ruin anybody else's view. I just don't want to have to put up a Canadian Tire temporary tent over these cars. It's just too nice a place to do that too.
Taylor, do you want to weigh in at all? Are you the one that visited the property?
I guess it was me who visited the property. I'm here if council has any questions, but everything he's saying was my analysis as well.
Councillor Collins.
I kind of agree with Ken, Councillor Adams, that you can't move that carport because it's just 4, like you say, 4 posts.
My driveway.
It's unfortunate because that would increase the footage to the shore on the one side. Instead of 11.8, it should be 20, right?
11.8.
You got 11.8 meters. It should be 20 meters setback from the waterfront.
No, it's 15 point.
No, that's the front of it. And then there's the side of it, the corner, that's 11.8. It's right here on the drawing.
That's from the side property. That's not water. Oh, no, I forgot my diagram,
Oh, okay.
but it's not,
All right.
that's a side lot.
Okay,
So
understood.
it's 11 point something meters from my side yard.
Okay. And you're only 1.8 meter from the house. You have
Yes,
no
top
intentions of connecting the carport
Can't.
to the house?
Impossible.
Good enough.
Yeah. I have to walk between it anyway.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, we move on.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The purpose of consent application numbers B 2024-20 to 22-F are to create 3 new rural residential lots. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2024-025-F is to rezone the lands to recognize a decreased frontage and an increased setback from EP zones. I now ask the deputy clerk to state the method by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on October 1st, 2024. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has Township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
Correspondence has been received from Kim and Glenn Redman.
Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications? You know the drill. Oh, okay, okay. All right. John, you know the drill of your name and address and the green button.
Thank you.
And then we'll
Afternoon,
recognize.
Council, Your Worship. John Jackson, 1 Mile Drive, Perry Sound. I'm here with the liquors so that if there's any questions of sort of a specific character, they're possibly able to answer them better than me. But just by way of background, we started to help the owners with a possible land division back in 2021, where we opened discussions with the municipality. We didn't really get any traction at that point, perhaps until Taylor LG came on board that next year. And we ended up with a proposal that I think Taylor has described rather fully in his summary report to the municipality. This property is located off Glen Burnie Road and onto McNeese Farm Road. It's strategically located next to the Rose Point Trail and adjacent to the MZO lands. Mr. LeCurrier is a well-known building contractor in the community, and it's his intention to build homes on these lots, for which I think he has some specified interest at this point. The interesting element in this project is the fact that McNeese Farm, or at least a portion of it, is a township road, but it's not maintained by the municipality. So one of the elements of this is to bring that road with the proper turnaround in to access the lots, some of which are existing beyond the LeCurrier's property, with a new high-quality road. We've had Bob Hughes design the road, and that's been generally accepted by the roads people here at the municipality. Now, late on Friday, we received concern from a neighboring property owner, the Redmonds, who have made a submission. I've tried to respond to the technical answers that I provided a memo to council on that. So I'll leave it at that. But the purpose of this meeting is to introduce the project and answer any questions if there are any. The important point is that there is, as Taylor has acknowledged, an environmental detailed assessment forthcoming, which is being done by Hutchison Environmental. So that'll further detail any responses on environmental constraints and how to best mitigate them. But it's my view that the project in its substance is in accord with the provincial policy statements, particularly the new one, which came in yesterday, which is an odd date, but October 20th, 2024 is the new PPS, and it's highly emphasizing the need for housing, as we're all very much aware. And I think in terms of the general intent and philosophy of the official plan, this is in accord with the foundations of those planning instruments. So if there are any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, maybe Joel and his partner could, but thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. I see Councillor Bazinski has his hand up. So over to you, Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that the responsibility to bring municipal quality standard road is the responsibility of the developer, and that the developer wouldn't be requesting the township to make any road improvements?
Yes, through your worship, that's, I forgot to mention that, that's our understanding completely. So there
Thank
won't
you.
be any expense to the municipality.
Thanks.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. And when this road is built, who's going to maintain it?
It would be turned over, your worship, through conveyance as a condition of the consent as a transfer to Seguin. They own the road, most of the road base now. So once we construct it in accordance with the municipal standards, then it would be turned into, become part of the municipal road system.
And how long is this road supposed to be? What's the length? Because I really can't, these proposed, under this figure 2, proposed lot configurations that I have here on my iPad, it's convoluted. I just don't understand it. So I'm glad that this is just for open discussion at this time. We're not going to be voting on this at this time.
Correct. Now, if I could, your worship, just check with Joel, because I think he knows the exact length. 300 meters.
300 meters of, okay. And is the owner paying for the environmental assessment with the Hutchisons?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so there could possibly be a peer review.
No, sorry. We've set it up in accordance with the municipality's directed environmental assessment. So the municipality would retain the consultants, and we would be responsible for the costs.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. I do want to point out that the township owns this road already.
Yeah.
He's
No, but
just
they
bringing it up to standard. We already own it.
Yeah, but we don't own it in front of these lots that they want to survey. They have to extend the road in order, am I right?
That's
Yeah.
correct. There'll be some of the road is accessed, but what we're putting a turnaround at the end, which will access these and other lots.
Okay, I don't have any
Are
more.
there any further questions?
Not this time.
Thank you very much. So we will close the public. Oh, has anyone, oh, so I'm sorry. I did see you before, and I apologize. So identify yourself and your address. But they were little.
Yeah. Kim Redmond, and we are 21 McNeese Farm Road. And I have my husband, Glenn Redmond, with me. And I apologize. I have a little bit more to say than some of the others, and I'm going to stick to script so that I don't ramble any further. I just want to assure, the clerk said that all of the technical and environmental risk forms were given to council. So I just want to make sure that you have those in hand.
We have everything that
Good,
you wrote.
perfect. Okay, so I'm going to follow script, and I'll try and be as brief as possible. It's come to our attention, as our property abuts the aforementioned amendments, that a proposal has been set forth to sever 3 new lots from the subject lands in order to rezone for rural residential. We've heard directly from Mr. Lacaille that he's already secured buyers and the construction plans are in place. This, as you might imagine, came as quite a shock to us, as we just received the notice about this proposal a little over a week ago. This was very disconcerting to us, as our documents reveal that Mr. Lacaille has been actively pursuing this development since 2023. We might have expected him to approach us in some capacity, as my family has owned the abutting property for 65 years. But unfortunately, this was not the case. Mr. Lacaille only recently acquired this property in late 2021, and I might add, with assurances to the previous owners at the McNeese family that it would remain in its natural state. Hearing of this proposal, I reached out to the surviving members of the McNeese family last week. They shared with me that some years ago, a local real estate developer offered to buy a strip of their land in order to build houses. Bill and Kath McNeese emphatically refused to sell, as they wanted their land to remain in its natural beauty. They even went so far as to donate old railway land to the township in order to make the Seguin Trail. Today, there is a McNeese Bridge plaque dedicated to them some 14 years ago to celebrate their love for the area. In the very short time that we've had to prepare for this meeting, we have organized a response outlining many significant environmental concerns surrounding this proposal and supporting rationale for these concerns in clear wording through current provincial regulatory documents. It is my understanding that Clerk Jeffrey has given you that information. It's our hope that you will critically analyze that information. We respectfully ask Council to take a moment to reflect upon their recent approval of approximately 309 hectares of land slated for mixed-use development. This proposed land lies barely 1 kilometer from the subject lands we are discussing. The Seguin Trail and a small area of forest is all that separates it from our small lake. Although we are pleased and impressed by the township's master servicing plan to ensure all environmental assessments are satisfied, its close proximity gives rise to concerns regarding future cumulative effects and pressures put on this small but very diverse lake. The encroachment of proposed Lot 3 on this provincially sensitive wetland is of particular concern to the conservation of the Blandings turtle habitat, which is designated as a threatened species under the Ontario Endangered Species Act and endangered under the Canadian Species at Risk Act. The Blandings turtle has been identified and nesting has been documented on these lands within the last calendar year. Further, the Ontario Wetland Evaluation System, a science-based ranking system used to evaluate the importance of a wetland, has determined the lake to be of significant value due to its biological components. This lake and its diverse ecosystem to date has low phosphorus levels necessary to healthy aquatic life, very low chloride levels characterizing the water as pristine in nature, and stable calcium levels ensuring its recovery from historical acid rain records. All of these results are documented by the Ministry of Ontario's Environment, Conservation and Parks, with which we have been partnered for the last 8 years. Every year we conduct lake water tests in the spring and send them to the ministry where they monitor changes to the lake. We've been added to the registry so that our small lake will have full reports written about its conditions on an annual basis. To be sure, any changes to the lake as a result of these rezoning amendments will show up in these reports. The baseline data should remind Council how important it is that all environmental and hydrogeologic concerns are addressed fully and with due diligence. We further ask that the township uphold its recommendation of 120-meter setback from this significant wetland, if approval for this application is granted. We look forward to reading comments and reports from the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority when made available. It's not our wish to tell Mr. Lacaille what to do with his property. If after a thorough and complete assessment of all environmental and hydrogeological assessments have been satisfied, we propose the positioning of new homes at 120 meters setback from the lake to minimize any environmental impact and preserve the lake's integrity. We also request that a freeze be put on any further development of this subject land. As a good faith gesture, Mr. Lacaille could possibly designate part of the land as a conservation area as an act of stewardship that would provide a legacy for all future generations to enjoy. In light of our above concerns, we respectfully urge this council to reconsider any approval of this proposed development. The potential cumulative impact of these changes raises alarming questions about further development, environmental degradation, and the disruption of the values of conservation that has historically guided the use of this land. One final note. Just a month ago, my husband and I were in absolute awe as we witnessed a bull moose peacefully swim across the lake. I can honestly say it was a magical moment for both of us. I believe it goes without saying that the proposed rezoning of these aforesaid subject lands, without any doubt in my mind, will endanger any reoccurrence of such a scene in the future. We wish to thank council with special reference to Mr. Bazinski, who sits as councillor in Ward 2, for taking the time to listen to our concerns and hopefully critically analyze our response to this proposal.
Thank you very much. I just want to point out that council is not voting
Yes,
on
I
any part of
understand that.
this. So all of your comments and requests for ecological studies
Yes,
are the next steps.
I understand that. We really, really wanted to share where we stood on this.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. You have a question? Is there anybody that's registered to speak to this electronically?
No one has registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation.
So there are no questions from council. Move on. Thank you. Council will now close the public meeting and reconvene the regular meeting. Close the meeting. You stay. Let me close the public meeting, okay? I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. And we will be discussing the zoning bylaw amendment application for Cunningham. That's the only decision that comes out of this. So can I have a motion to come out of public? Any, Ken Adams, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, so I have a motion that bylaw number 2024-102, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-005-09900, application number R 2024-0021-H at 45 Hatherley Road for Cunningham is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I need a mover and a seconder. Okay. Is there any discussion? No. All in favor? And sorry, Mario. Okay, thank you. So that is carried. Thank you. Good luck. Okay, so we are moving on to delegations, and I see we have Councillor Wing and Don here to talk to us about Belvedere. Do you have their slides? Okay. So which one of you is going to speak? Just make sure that the light goes on before you start to speak.
No, no. There we go. Green? Yep. How's that? Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Right hand button.
Yep. Thank you very much for this opportunity to update you on Belvedere Heights build, the 22 new units. We're going to do a bit of a tag team. I'll do the first bit and Dawn will do the big heavy stuff. So the first slide you have there is a slide of the new build, a rendering of the new build, which looks very similar. It's facing west. Looks very similar to the old build, but it just comes out a little bit farther, closer to the road. And that's where some of the new units will be located. This works. Okay. The next is a southern view of the same area at that upper level. Just looking, instead of coming up the hill, you're going down the hill. So that is, and on the right-hand side is Life Lease. The next one is the new main entrance, which will be on the lower level. And this is the one that will be, it faces east and will be, I guess, more easy for people to get to. But it is going to be on the lower level. And so there will be wayfinding in terms of getting to all the resident home areas. And the other fun thing is the colors that they've decided to use. That this is our architect has decided to take a look at Georgian Bay, take a look at the rocks, the sky, the sunsets, and the water, and they've incorporated as much as they can into this new residential home area. So we're very pleased with what they have done, and we really quite like it. The next one is just a rendering that shows you, as I mentioned, if you look at the red lines, the first one shows you where we were and shows you how far out we're coming. So we're coming out almost to the road, which requires us to get a variance. And you'll see the units there. The new ones are the first ones, the first 4 on the top, and then the 6 on the right-hand side, and the other 2 in between. The balance of the units will be renoed, but these first ones are the new that we're building. This one just shows you again exactly outlined in red what is new build, and the balance is renovations. And so now I'm going to turn it over to my friend who will go through the costs. Yeah, you got the good part.
Thank you, boss. Anyway, thank you very much. So, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, thanks. So, so you can see essentially what we're looking at is a $13 million project. And the hard costs of the main construction costs are in the neighborhood of 10.2 million. There's mandatory contingency. Ministry requires the soft costs, the engineering, architect fees as well, again, as a contingency there. And then the HST, you see we have a question mark. We should be eligible for 100% refund because it's a new build. We're not sure about that. And then the FF&E is furniture, fixture, and equipment. And we built in a generous, we hope a very generous contingency in there to give us some flexibility when we have some surprises. If we hope we don't have any, but there usually are. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the distribution of the square footage for the new build on the main floor, the renovation on the main floor, and the renovation in the lower level. And so essentially what will happen is we will renovate the lower level first. We then move the administration, chapel, et cetera, from the first floor down to that split level basement level, and then start the renovation of the first floor and the addition on the first floor to accommodate the new 22 home area. So here's the project revenues piece. So there are 2 components to the revenue. The first one is with every new build, the ministry automatically gives everyone a $250,000 planning grant. No matter what size you are, we all get the same planning grant. The development grant is approximately $19,000 and change per bed. So that's where that $390,000 comes from. And then, as we'll talk a bit in a minute, the reason we were in such a hurry was to qualify for the $35 per diem subsidy. And as a non-for-profit home, we are allowed to convert 15 of that 35 to upfront money. So instead of taking $3 million over the 25 years, you can take the $1.78 million upfront as a present value of that distribution, and that's the 1.7. So you can see we have 2.4 million in cash. We've sent a letter, Councillor Pam has sent a letter to all of you asking for the $700,000 back that we returned in 2001, and that would then gives us the $3 million. So that's the one-time funding that would then be applied against the $13.4 million project. The other thing the ministry does is they automatically also guarantee a per diem subsidy over 25 years. So in our case, as a rural home, greater than 96 beds, we are eligible for $21.50, which is just about 3.4 million over 25 years. On top of that, as I mentioned, we were in a hurry for the construction funding subsidy. We can top that up by $20, so we get another $4 million over that time, which gives us the $333,000. So that's money we'll get every year for the next 25 years. And once the project's signed, all of these monies are guaranteed. So there's no concern there. Whoop. What am I doing wrong?
Got it.
Whoop, there we go. Thank you. So this brings everything together. So you can see the total expense, the total revenue, the offset in terms of the 10.2 million. And we are in discussion with, as we'll talk in a minute, thanks to Carling, we are in discussions with Infrastructure Ontario, and their interest rates are much lower than the bank at 4.35% compared to 6%. And so then you can see the annual payments for that would be 674,000. The 333,000 that I mentioned before is guaranteed. We'll offset that. And then we have the balance. And that balance, as in yellow, you'll see offset by the savings, the economy of scale, by adding 22 beds to our existing facility when we don't have to add new laundry staff, new administration staff, et cetera. So we have marginal cost increases, but we get the full funding credit from the ministry. So that will have more than enough under this pro forma. So we will have a surplus here, as you can see, approximately 98,000 estimate, which means we will not impact the levy in terms of the ongoing supporting this project over the next 25 years. So as I mentioned, Infrastructure Ontario is very helpful for you in terms of municipalities borrowing from them. It's a little more difficult for Belvedere Heights as a third party, even though it's backed by you. For us, we have quite a few hoops that we would have to go through to actually get the money, and we would not be able to do that within a month. I mentioned the environmental assessment as a good example where you can't possibly do a phase 1 environmental assessment in a month. Might take a year. Probably quite not with a small bill, but still you could never do it. So the option 2 that they provided was one of the municipalities or more step up to guarantee the initial construction loan and also the ongoing 25-year debenture. And Carling did that. And so that process is in place. Carling's application is in place. And all we're waiting now for is a Class A estimate to finalize the paperwork for that loan. And the bottom section there's a comparison between if a municipality does it and if we do it in terms of the debt service ratio coverage, as well as there's only a slight difference in interest rates, but debt service coverage is considerable difference. And that's where we would actually have to find another 1.2 million to make that happen if we do it ourselves. So we're in a great situation right now. And with Carling, we'll take care of the construction loan for the next 2 years. As I said, they've also passed a bylaw for the ongoing debenture, and we will also be asking all 7, including you, to come on board to support us in 2026. When the end of 2026, we expect by December 1st, 2026, we'll actually have residents in the new build. So here's a summary of the money that was sent back. And we've actually shown this before, I think, so you can see you're our major shareholder, as you know. And so, and I know you did put monies in reserve. Art Coles had mentioned that the money was put in reserves when this was done, when he was our board chair back then, and one of your councillors. And so here's the reason we were in such a hurry. So as you may recall, on April 5th, we got the letter from the ministry saying that they would not accept our merging into a campus of care at that time. And we had only 2 viable options. One was stay with 101 beds, or 2, add the beds we'd already given you a couple of years ago, up to 24 beds. So we only found out about this on April 12th that we had the April 30th deadline. So we had to do a lot of scrambling, particularly when the firm that did the initial plans was out of business. So all we had was 3 pieces of paper to actually create this, turn this into magic in terms of meeting the April 30th deadline. So we did that. And we also made the May 31st deadline. And as we're proceeding on to the November 8th deadline, and then the ministry had said they would make a decision by November 30th. So here we've waited 3 years, and here was a chance to actually get from nothing to something within 9 months. So we just couldn't possibly say no to that. Plus, of course, this $35 per diem is another $7 million in total, equivalent of $7 million in total over the 25 years, not just the original 4.3 million that we would get. However, what happened was we did that. We submitted it for April 30th. The architects, we did a sole source to the original architects that did the campus of care because we had no choice but to meet that because they only had a week to turn this around as well by the time we contacted them. So we submitted the data, as I said, for April 30th. They then came on site and we had to make some significant changes to the plan. They hadn't visited us until the first week in May. So we changed from potential of 24 beds in the basement, which quickly became 22 beds in the basement, to moving them to 22 beds upstairs. So there was a number of machinations with the ministry on that. They were very comfortable with this. We were worried at first, right? Because this is a pretty significant change from April 30th. And so there was a lot of activity you can see on the slides. At the end of the day, it was August 6th when we finally got the preliminary plan approved, which is probably at least a month behind schedule. And so that allowed then the architect to finalize the working drawings, of course, which is the blueprints, and they were submitted the last week of August. And by September 9th, the ministry had everything they needed to analyze our project. And so what happened was they got back to us on October 8th with some comments. They are still going back and forth on some minor design issues right now. So we didn't quite make the October 18th deadline that we're hoping to be able to issue the tender. So we're still waiting for final approval. We have a construction management firm in place that was tendered. So we had 9 bids for that. So Quinnen from Aurelia won that bid, and they are prepared. They're ready to issue the tenders once we get the final go-ahead from the ministry, and we are hoping for like a 5-week period. Now, we are in discussions with the ministry to get an extension beyond the November 30th date, and so there is some hope there. There's some positive vibes there, but we haven't got an answer on that yet. But it is under review. And as I mentioned, then if we get started fairly soon, we will be within 2 years. We will be finished, and residents will be joining us. Do you want to come back? You go ahead. Okay, so what's happening at the moment is we've had actually very good support from the town of Parry Sound. So with the site plan and the building permit is under review, that will be December 10th. It will be is the date of final approval for that. And so the construction funding loan between Carling Infrastructure Ontario is well underway, and Belvedere, and we have to paper an agreement with Carling to support them, since we will be funding. It's a contingent liability, essentially. It will be funded by Belvedere via the Carling. The last thing we have to do for the November 8th deadline, which is now stretching in towards November 30th and beyond, is the approval to construct package. And you can see there's a whole bunch of things we have to do. We have to get land evaluation done. That's under works. The licensing review is under works. Insurance, we have that in place. And the bonding, site plan, that's Quinnen's taking care of some of that stuff. And so all of that we should be able to do for the initial November 8th deadline. Obviously, tender results, final pricing will not make that deadline. It'll be the end of November, perhaps into early December. The other thing we can do and get approval from the town is to add 23 parking spots or up to 23 in advance, and that's going in the northwest corner of the lot. We will lose some parking spots for the construction, and of course, we probably need some parking for the construction workers, so it'd be handy to have that in place when we start the new build, the renovation in the winter, and then, of course, the new build will start in the spring. And so we will be looking at the moment, we're looking for municipal support to agree with us to enter into the construction loan agreement with Carling. So that's the first phase. And then, of course, the next phase would be asking your support to actually support the IO debenture. And this is the draft resolution that we had forwarded as well for you to consider at one of your next upcoming council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions? I'd just like to, as the principal shareholder in Belvedere, suggest that from a point of view of the Township of Seguin, we would rather take the portion of the construction financing risk as part of our responsibility as the major shareholder. So we will be considering your resolution at the next meeting. But if we go back to the founding tenets of Belvedere, it was 7+ McMurch that created Belvedere, accepted the risk and accepted the rewards. So we have some concerns about all of the construction financing coming from Carling, but that'll be discussed at our next meeting.
The interesting issue is McDougall asked to help as well. That would actually slow the process down because they'd actually have to assess 2 or 3 municipalities rather than just one. And so in a sense, I mean, it's a low risk contingent liability for Carling, right? Because all the funds are provided by us through our operating funds. So it's just a pass through really in terms of the construction loan. We certainly would really need your support for the 25-year debenture. So that, right, so that, I mean, Carling is willing to take it on because, you know, as you know, even if the issue around your debt service coverage yourself or your borrowing capacity, you know, whether in fact borrowing for a municipal home, it qualifies or not in terms of your stuff, but because you have the 20%, 25%, right, in terms of your borrowing capacity for your own funds. So that's where I think it would be a good idea it would be great if all 8 municipalities stepped up to support that. Carling's okay for the next 2 years. And talking with IISIO about adding more, and they said it's not a good idea right now because they really want to get this done by November 15th in terms of the approval for the construction loan. And so that's why we appreciate your support on that. And I hope you understand that you're okay with that?
Well, we will discuss that at our next council meeting. We are prepared to have the motion today. I'll read it. The motion reads, whereas in 2021, Belvedere Heights Home for the Aged Board of Management, Belvedere advised the Township of Seguin Council that Belvedere had an excess in operating reserves and would be returning the funds to the corporation of the Township of Seguin. And whereas Belvedere provided a payment in the amount of $250,406 to Seguin, and whereas Belvedere has requested Seguin return the funds to Belvedere to support the addition of 22 new private rooms. Therefore, be it resolved that as per the request of Belvedere Heights Home for the Aged Board of Management, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize and direct staff to transfer payment in the amount of $250,406 from the Township of Seguin reserves to Belvedere Heights Home for the Aged to support the addition of 22 new private rooms. Could I have a mover? Thank you. And a seconder? Thanks. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Bazinski has a question before we vote. Mario, over to you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. You talked about the 13 million roughly. What about the other 6 million that's to renovate the main floor and the basement?
The 13 million is total.
I thought I saw in your presentation there was a table on the right-hand side and it had 13 million and it had 6 million and the total was 19 million and change.
Oh, that's square footage. That's not money.
Oh,
That's square
that's not
footage.
the money. So it's just 13 million. Okay,
Yeah.
that helps me a lot.
Yeah, sorry, that
Um,
table is probably small. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no problem. I was on the board originally 2 terms ago, but I never did understand why Seguin pays a disproportionate amount of the assessment. It says it's a weighted assessment. Can you explain that to me? Like,
Certainly, it's relative impact values. Across the 8 municipalities. It's how that works.
and
So,
why was it that it would be just on Belvedere? Because most of the agreements we have with other municipalities where it's joint, it's not that disproportionate. Any idea? I'm not, and this is not a court of law or anything. I'm just asking just for my own curiosity, historically, why it was decided to go that way when you would think that it would be, there must be a different way to go.
no, it's a great question.
I'm going to ask our treasurer to weigh in. She's got the history and knows how it was created.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor Bazinski. That is set by provincial legislation of how the costs are allocated to the municipality, and the weighted assessment is essentially our weighted assessment, which is how our tax ratios affect our assessment.
Oh, so we had no choice in the matter then.
That's correct.
Okay, the only other thing I'm wondering is, what about the life lease? What does that play into this whole scheme of things? Because at one point there was a discussion about buying out all the life leases. Is that still on the table, or is that, are we just going to go along as per usual?
There's not the same sense of urgency if we weren't closing, to your point, right? So, I mean, we still, we can carry on with the current arrangement for life lease and sell it on the open market if there's buyers. The problem we've had recently is it's very hard to find people who want to buy life lease anymore. And, so we're monitoring that, but it's not quite the same issue that we had when we last met.
Okay, but maybe we could look at affordable rental housing as opposed to life lease.
Well, of course, we have 5 units that are rental, right? And so that's right. I mean, you've got a good point. We normally have, for every one person who wants to buy, we usually have 4 people who want to rent, and so that buying them back and then allows us to rent them out. And of course, we have the business model that does sort of make sense to do that. So we could carry on with that same business model if we so choose.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. And our Chief Administrative Officer has a question or comment.
Thank you, Don and Councillor Wing, for joining us today. Just a quick question. I'm just reviewing the budget in your presentation, and I see there's about $1 million in soft costs with a 3% cost contingency. I'm curious if that includes, based on the pre-consultation with the town, any building permit fees and site servicing sort of upgrades. Are those costs included inside of that?
Yeah. The permit fees are 91,000.
And that includes water, wastewater connections, et cetera?
Yeah, and hydro upgrade.
So we have a motion on the table to release the funds that were returned to us in 2021 back to Belvedere. All in favor? Thank you, and that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll discuss the next motion at our next meeting. And we are moving on to staff reports, and I think Community Services is going to be first. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the October 21st, 2024 meeting of Council. Greg and Gail. In favor? Thank you. And over to you, Dominique.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. So this first report is to recommend Council approve staff recommendation and award P2I Strategies, the project manager role for the Rosso Memorial Hall revitalization project. So we received 3 bids in total, and P2I was the highest rated by staff, which was myself, Valerie Yankovic, and Forrest Pengra. So P2I has quite extensive experience with historical building renovations. Their score was high on the evaluation, as I said, and that suggests that they would best meet the needs of this project and the objectives. So we believe that choosing this firm would ensure that the project is successful and meets our expectations. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Your report is pretty comprehensive, but I'll put the motion on the table and then we'll take questions. So I have a motion that, as per the recommendation of staff report number CS 2024-010, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby award the project manager role for the Rosso Memorial Hall revitalization project to P2I Strategies, Inc. in the amount of $191,625 to be funded from the Rosso Memorial Hall Reserve. Could I have a motion to put that on the table? Gail, and a seconder, Ken. And Councillor Bazinski, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just had a question, Dominique. So I read in the report that the funding will come from the reserve that we have from the donation. That's great. What's the difference between what we have in the reserve and the total cost, roughly?
It's hard to say a number right now. If we base it on the projections from the master plan, we're looking at just over $2 million to do phase 1 and 2, but that's if we proceed with that particular vision. So, you know, I think, you know, now that the fundraising team has started, we have some other grants that we can apply for now that we've got the historical significance. So I think we've got some attainable goals there as well that will support this.
So roughly how much are we out at the moment if we went forward the way it's?
If we were looking at the master plan and their numbers, phase 1 and 2 was just over 2 million. So with this 190, we'd be looking at funding another maybe $300,000 to $500,000. But again, it's really hard to give you that number, not knowing that our design is you know, confirmed at this point. So.
Right. So will you make attempts to try and bring that number down?
The project cost number or the project manager?
No, the project cost. So.
Yeah. So once we get into the design phase, we'll have a lot better way of, you know, sort of judging what those costs are going to be. And of course, we'll do everything to bring those numbers down. Usually it goes the other way, unfortunately, but I hope that that won't happen in this case.
Yeah, because I guess we don't have it budgeted for an overage at this point.
Right. And that's where I think we have a great opportunity with the fundraising team to really raise some good funds.
Thank you. I didn't want to put you on the hot seat.
No, that's okay.
Councillor Collins.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Dominique, I recall in the last renovation to the Memorial Hall, there was asbestos, and you recall that. Was that all removed? Like, is the hall now free of asbestos entirely?
No, the hall would be the actual inner walls, and this is downstairs. We'd have to get a abatement company in again, but those walls, as long as they're not touched, you don't need to worry about those, and they wouldn't be touched, especially now that we've got the historical significance. So that would be left alone. The addition is in the back, so you're looking at new materials that of course wouldn't have contain any of those materials in it. So yes, I mean, we'd obviously have the professionals out to guide us through that process, but you actually just leave it alone.
Okay. No, that's good to know, because that's what, in the last renovation, that's what put us over budget. I mean, we didn't have the monies as we have now, but as long as there's no removal of asbestos, I guess, that's good to know. Good to know. Thanks, Dominique.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Thank you. So we have a motion on the table to approve P2I as the project manager. All in favor? Thank you. And that is carried. Thanks, Dominique. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're next. I can see
I'm here
that you're
again.
still on the hot seat. Community service funding.
Yes, so these are actually pretty exciting funding applications. So we're seeking approval from council to move forward with them. The first is a NOHFC grant to support the 40th annual Seguin Sled Dog Mail Run. So very significant year. That's a lot of time, a lot of years doing this event, and this funding would help us expand it. We could, really make it bigger on the Rosso side, which is what we're trying to do. We already get huge amounts of people coming to this event, so we want to support it and grow it, and this grant would help us do that. So that's the first one. The second one is the Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. And this is to build 3 new arena dressing rooms to the back of the Humphrey Community Center and adding a fitness room above that would overlook the ice rink. So this is a much needed improvement to the arena that will allow programming and rentals to grow. It is a large infrastructure project, but the funding opportunity is significant. Being in a municipality that's under 20,000, we can potentially receive 70% of the funding. So again, I can take any questions.
Well, let's take them one at a time. So I'll put the first motion on the table. So I have a motion that, as per recommendation of staff report number CS 2024-011, Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize and direct staff to submit an application for funding to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation Cultural Supports Community Events Stream for the expansion of the 40th annual Seguin Sled Dog Mail Run. Greg and Ken. All in favor? Thank you. I want to know if NOHFC will guarantee snow.
I wish.
Okay, the second one is a motion that, as per recommendation of staff report number CS 2024-011, Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize and direct staff to submit an application for funding to the Ontario Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund for the expansion of the Humphrey Community Centre dressing rooms and the addition of a gym. I have a mover. You wanted this one. And Greg. All in favor? Thank you. Good luck with the applications, Dominique.
Thank you.
We're deserving. So we're gonna move on, I believe, to Taylor. For a deeming bylaw, it's pretty straightforward. I have a motion that bylaw number 2024-101, being a bylaw to deem lots 23 E.S. Ash Street and 23 West South Oak Street of Plan 163 pursuant to section 50(4) of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll numbers 4903-020-002-03750 and 493-020-002-02200. File number D 2023-0005-R for Smith is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a mover? Gail, and a seconder. Taylor, do you want to, is that a question, Councillor Bazinski? No. Taylor, do you want to talk us through this one a little bit?
Certainly, through your worship. The proponent would just like to build a garage, and the easiest way to do that is to essentially merge their lots. So on page 139 council agenda, the blue and the red lot will become one, and then they can build their garage and get a building permit.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you.
No resolutions for the next two.
Okay. I think we're calling on Forrest for the next two. Thank you. Over to you for the next two items.
Thank you, Your Worship. For the first item, I think the report is fairly self-explanatory regarding rural and remote broadband. I've provided yourself and council a bit of an update on both the Cogeco Connections project, which is roughly in the Orville area, but also the Bell Canada project, which is in the vast majority of the municipality, to which they are bringing fiber to the home. So if there's any specific questions about either project, I'm happy to try to answer. As you'll note in my report, getting updated information from the Bell side of things was maybe a little less straightforward.
Thank you very much. And I've been on this long enough that you kind of have to hold your breath, even with a well-written report, and hope it comes to be. Any questions for Forrest? Councillor Bazinski.
Yeah, hi, Forrest. That was an interesting comment about Bell. Not sure what you're getting at, but just I can give you some experience that on Otter Lake, Bell was going around installing fiber on the mainland, and they've also done water access places such as ours. We have fiber to our place. They still have to put in a box to tie it in and then a house connection, but I'm assured by Bell that that's going to happen. I wasn't overly happy with tree clearing, because where they strung the line on the mainland on our landing lot, they topped off a bunch of trees but didn't take them down, so the trees are dead and hanging onto the side of the trunks and things, and I haven't been able to really respond. Do you have a good contact at Bell I could talk to?
Through your worship, couple things. So yes, I do have a point of contact, and I'd be quite happy to connect yourself to that point of contact. And the same goes for any member of the public who is feeling challenged by perhaps maybe a lesser quality finishing product. Now, I will say this is a huge project with a tremendous number of moving parts that are being taken care of simultaneously. And so the entirety of the project is really, it's being handled by so many different parties that it's going to take time to fully resolve everything. And to go back to the first part of your statement, you didn't know what I was getting at when it came to Bell. And so in a lot of ways, Bell has been a good partner in this, quite good, particularly in the early days when we started down this path. The challenge here is our community is one of many that they're blanketing fiber in. and providing the granular level updates that I have been pushing very hard for it's having limited success, we'll say. And part of that is because Bell doesn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And from that perspective, I can certainly understand it. That being said, having a better insight into where their crews are rolling, where they're installing infrastructure, where they're dropping infrastructure temporarily, that goes a long way particularly when we're trying to coordinate with public works staff, with members of the public with whom they find spools of fiber at the end of their driveway. And so it's a lot of managing these relationships. And by and large, they have been good project partners, but it's such a huge project that it cannot go perfectly.
Thank you. Councillor Adams had a question.
Yeah, Forrest, I see that Mike's around my area. Now, it said in your thing that he is working for Cogeco, or is he part of Bell too?
Through your worship, Mike's Communications is actually working for both. Now, your particular neck of the woods is part of the ASIP, Bell Canada fiber blanketing. So they, in a roundabout the way, both, but for your particular area, it is not part of the Cogeco project, but you are part of the Bell ASIP project.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think we're lucky to have you on top of both Cogeco and Bell and all of their subcontractors, because every time your name comes up with anybody, oh, Forrest is wonderful. So thank you for being there for us.
Thank you.
I think you're still on for sustainable procurement. Over to you.
Thank you, your worship. Introducing the concept of sustainable procurement was actually it was a product of council. Earlier in this year, it was made as a priority project for us to investigate. Simultaneously, it was also already contained within the corporate community climate action plans. And so the intent at the beginning of the year was to try to wrap up this sustainable procurement in Q1. That really wasn't realistic, and to do the entire process justice. It didn't make a whole lot of sense for staff to try to complete this undertaking in a vacuum. And so working with some of the other area municipalities, First Nations, utilities, etc., we pulled together a bit of a working group, workshopped the concept more broadly, and came to what we have today, which is a draft sustainable procurement policy as integrated into the primary corporate procurement bylaw.
Thank you very much. Councillor Collins has a question.
Yes.
Forrest, the bylaw, is that the 2011-057?
No, we updated that. Let me pull the number here. 1 second. The procurement bylaw was updated last November 28th, 2022 through bylaw 2023-009.
Okay, so this has been updated. So this no longer exists then, the procurement policies and procedures bylaw.
There's the one in 2022 superseded that.
Yeah, and you'll see the bylaw starts on page 155 of your council package.
Of tonight's, okay.
Yeah, and the red line
So I can
is.
rip this up and throw it away. It means nothing anymore. Nice to know.
Anybody else got any questions? I think it's excellent. It'll be interesting to see how the implementation goes department by department and purchase by purchase. I mean, there's a difference between buying a fire truck and buying reams of paper. And it's going to be interesting to watch it get implemented, is my only comment.
And through your worship, I think it's really important that we note that this these amendments to the procurement bylaw are not meant to be an impediment to competitive procurement. It's supposed to be a pragmatic way for putting that climate lens on our business and our purchases. And so this essentially just puts legs on some of these larger corporate policies and larger corporate actions as it relates to the various items that council has committed to through the climate action plans.
Thank you. Councillor Getty has a question.
No, it wasn't a question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was, Forrest, just to say, I mean, I think it was a great document, and I think that, you know, the one of the final, and the section was Section J exemptions. It basically, I mean, it recognizes the need for competitive cost, which gives that, and it's written right in there. So I think, you know, in totality, it's a great document. So thank you.
Thank you. And I believe all you need now is for us to direct staff to continue to make it a bylaw. Is that the next step?
To circulate the bylaw publicly.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Bazinski, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Forrest, so in my business, it was always environment versus economy. So can you give us an idea, like when you look at a competitive bid, the climate lens will be applied. How do you make the decision where you've got a cost that's significantly less, but it's, or significantly more, but it's better for the environment?
Through your worship, it's going to be different for every procurement type. And so how we envision, say, the procurement of gravel would be different than how we're procuring an HVAC system for a building. And the same is true depending on, you know, the size of the procurement, whether it's $100 or $100,000. It'll have to be kind of that pragmatic lens. But what I would say is when it comes to infrastructure, like the larger infrastructure items, the emphasis is to look at the total life cycle cost. So not just that initial one-time purchase. If we're only looking at that one-time purchase and we're not considering potential savings through operational costs, as well as potential savings in greenhouse gas emissions or the like, then we're really doing a disservice to the residents as it is. I will say, however, throughout recent times, staff have endeavored to keep this, you know, to have this lens. We're just formalizing it here.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think you have support of council to go to the next steps. Thank you very much for the work you've done on it.
Thank you.
Is you going to speak to this one? There's Craig.
It's the Roma conference, just for you to.
Okay, so the next one is business. We have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the following members of council to attend the 2025 Rural Ontario Municipal Association, that's Roma Conference, to be held January 19th to 21st, 2025 at the Sheraton Centre Hotel in Toronto. Reimbursement of expenses will be as per township policy. Who would like to attend? I have already put my hand up. Councillor Bazinski, you'd like to be at Roma? Okay. Anybody else? Terry doesn't want to go. Okay. Okay, so it's just Mayor McDermott and Councillor Bazinski, and staff is on a different decision. Okay, could I have a mover? Gail? Seconder? Ken? All in favor? Thank you. Oh. You've got in your agenda package the Remembrance Day schedules. Remembrance Day is a Sunday, so some of them are happening. No, sorry, it's a Monday. So some of the services are happening on this Sunday in churches. So I would like to know who would like to attend each of the ones that are outlined on page 172. Foley is going to be church on Sunday, the 10th. Do we have a counselor from Foley that will attend? Counselor Adams, okay. Orville is going to be on the Monday morning at 11.
At the Orville Center, Kath, I'm
Ted?
doing for that.
Okay. Humphrey is in the school gym at 11 on the Monday. Okay. As well. Okay. So Gail Finson and Greg Getty. Rosso is church on the 10th. Yes, it is in the hall. I'll go that and I'll go to that as well. And that's everybody. So if you've agreed to go, the week before, there will likely be a wreath for you to pick up here at the township and then bring the wreath back a day or so later. We are big on recycling. The next item, number 173, is a report from staff that outlines opportunities if council wants to reconsider their remuneration bylaw. Ted, I'll turn it over to you because I believe you asked for this to come forward. Page 173, council remuneration report.
Yes, I did bring this up, I think a few meetings ago, council remuneration. I did a little bit of research. And our first remuneration policy was back October, or I should say September 26, 2005. And it was passed October 30th, 2005. And that was just a year before our official plan in 2006. And back then, there was a 1/3, what they say, tax-free exemption by the federal government. And that was taken away from councillors in the province of Ontario by the federal government. And it was this council in 2018 that brought it back. And since they did take away the 1/3 tax-free exemption, we topped off the loss to break even in 2018. So let's fast forward to today. I had to write everything down so I wouldn't forget anything. I'm sorry if I'm not going off the top of my head, but I am not getting any younger. Anyways, right now, this is about a salary grid step up for 2025. And I want you to be I just want to make myself perfectly clear that it is not about us today. It's about tomorrow and specifically Seguin's future. As we all know, Seguin is not your average township. As councillors, we now oversee the running of a significant and complex business structure, and additionally have legislative responsibilities to our constituents. It's noble to say we do it because we want to, give back to our community. And I truly believe this present council feels the same way. However, we are not getting any younger, and we need to pave the way forward to entice others to municipal council. This is a job that will follow you around wherever you go. It's a lifestyle job. We're not part-time, nor do we have a choice, but a duty to serve the people who elected us. But we are never off the clock, 365 days a year. And our compensation needs to reflect that in the 2025 budget. To provide a clear illustration, I've detailed a breakdown, if you want me to go through that, of our annual net salary calculated on my current councillor's salary of 2024, if necessary. After provincial and federal taxes, it's $20,000. We have zero car allowance, insurance, fuel, and maintenance per year. That costs me $5,500 a year. We have no pension plan. We have no staff group benefit package. We have no travel expenses within our township. We have zero phone reimbursement of $1,150. And this is the main factor, is that you must live and pay property in our township of property taxes, which is another $2,500. So my total net expenditures is about $9,200. Now, net salary after taxes and everyday expenditures is approximately $10,800. This, however, does not include our time and service with respect to attending township municipal matters, including all meetings of council, boards, committees, events, ceremonial or social, public meetings, or community group meetings. In closing, it has been more than 10 years since our last salary grid step up. And having said that, I would like to bring forward a salary grid step up for each council member starting January 1st, 2025. And that is the proposed increase of $9,500, total financial impact $57,000, and the tax rate increase of 0.39%. And I'll open up for my colleagues for discussion if they want.
Councillor Finson?
If I recall, we just had the staff, the evaluation of the staff, of council. We had that really long evaluation, and it said we were on par with all of the other municipalities of our size. And we agreed to increase the mayor's salary because it was low, but the rest of us we fit into what people get paid for doing this job in all of the municipalities that were comparable. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and I think if you want reference back to those studies, we've got both Christine and Michelle online, but you're correct, it was done last calendar year. Councillor Bazinski.
Well, thank you. I'd just like to say that when we did the staff review, the comments were that Seguin wants to keep the best quality staff. And so when we reviewed it, there were some staff that were above the average, some were below the average. And it was decided to give a uniform increase to everyone to keep the relativity in the township. So I think this is sort of what Councillor Collins is getting at, that, you know, if you look, when I first came on council 2 terms ago, we were in the low 20,000 range. I think it was 21 or 22,000, and we haven't moved hardly at all in 10 years. And secondly, I think that, you know, the comparables, it's fine. You can find a consultant that will compare things and municipalities. And I think Councillor Collins is right that Seguin has a lot more complex issues and more numerous issues than many of the rural municipalities. So I'm certainly in favor of an increase for council, and it'll, you know, when I was on council, I think the difference, the relativity between council members and the mayor was somewhere in the order of $10,000, and it's now somewhere around 20,000. So I think it's fair to bring the relativity back to what it was when I first started on council. Thank you.
Councillor Adams.
I just want to say I support Ted in his proposal to the increase.
Councillor Getty.
I think it's, I mean, Councillor Collins has articulated the reasons for putting the motion forward. I think that no different than any of the other presentations that have been made to council by staff, that this can be included in the total budget proposal, and those issues will be argued when the total budget comes to us. I think that the reasons that are articulated by Councillor Collins I agree with them, but I think that we also have to look at it in the totality of the budget when it comes forward. And I understand what Gail was saying in regards to the report. I understand what Mary was saying too, because depending on where you want to look with numbers, you can find anything to either justify up or down. So the reality is, I think that we have a responsibility to look at it in the totality of the budget when it comes forward. So I support putting it into the building blocks, and we'll look at it when it comes in a total package.
Okay, thank you. I think upping the salary may help us attract younger candidates to council. I do want to point out that when the federal government took the tax relief, I guess that's what it was called, away from us, we all were given the opportunity to claim automobile expenses within the township, office expenses, computer expenses. And for me personally, that took me ahead of where the tax grant was in the prior to me taking office. So I encourage all of you to get creative with, what is it, Form 1200, Form 2100, I forget what the number is, T21, whatever the number is, Michelle. It's certainly those expenses are reimbursable, or maybe not reimbursable, but certainly tax credits. So I'm hearing though, through council, that you're giving staff direction to include the $9,500 increase for counselors until as a building block. And then we have to look at our other priorities, because we've also given a 3% goal for overall tax increase. So now we're at 2.6, basically. So it'll be part of the township. Yes, Ken.
One thing I noticed on here is the frequency of pays. Like, I don't know if the other council wants that, but why shouldn't council be paid the same time as staff?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yes,
Just wait till somebody acknowledges. Do you want to speak to that, or do you want Christine to speak to it?
I'm happy to speak to it quickly, and maybe on behalf of Christine and Michelle. Council, it's your decision if you want to pay frequency of monthly or biweekly. To us, I don't think it's a particularly significant undertaking. We do payroll for staff biweekly, so it's a non-issue on our part. We just want the instructions from you on how to proceed with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if it was possible, that's all.
Do you have a comment?
Yes, so why don't we just add that to the remuneration and for getting paid the same time as staff gets paid on a bi-weekly basis instead of what it is now, and makes it a lot simpler.
Christine, do you want to comment on whether you can do that in the immediate term or starting in the 2025 year?
Your worship, I would prefer to start that January 1st, 2025, because taxes are already calculated right now, doing it, spread it over the 12 months. So it would be January 1st if there's any change to salaries, wages, as well as the frequency could all happen January 1st, 2025.
Okay, thank you. And so you've got direction to work that into the budget, and it may change taxes, and we'll see it as part of the overall budget discussions as Councillor Getty has outlined. Thank you.
Okay.
Ward 6 first. I forget who I have first.
On October the 7th, I had a Pumpkin Fest meeting. It was long and productive. On October the 9th, I had a Belvedere Heights governance meeting. They're working on some bylaws. It was a constructive meeting as well. October the 10th, I had a DSAB meeting. Very quick one. It wasn't very long. October the 11th, I had a meeting with the residents of Rosso and Graydon Smith at the community hall. It was good, actually. He made some friends, and they were all happy at the end of it. Mr. Getty was there as well, Councillor Getty. It was a good meeting, and I really liked the new director of Ontario Health Teams, Ellen. She's lovely, like really lovely and informative, and I really liked her. October the 12th, we did Pumpkin Fest, worked there in the day, and we prepared the night before. It was fantastic. It was really good, well attended, beautiful weather. I can't even say enough about it. It was really good. We have another meeting tonight to close it out. We haven't got all the finances yet. I'll report on that next time. October the 15th, prepared and attended the Lunch and Learn in Rosso and had the help of the mayor because we were a little bit scattered. Our first one. We'll do better next time. And October 16th, the rec committee meeting. Lots of discussions about upcoming events and past events. It was also a productive meeting. The Halloween Howl is coming up. I'll be helping with that. The Orville Market, the New Year's Eve, they want to have the fireworks in Foley plus a dance afterwards. October 21st, I had that's today, Belvedere Heights meeting this morning. And I've had some interesting comments on Facebook, a little bit of a stressful couple of weeks with the comments in the public, but I'm dealing with that. And tonight I have another, what do I have tonight? Oh, Pumpkin Fest meeting tonight to finish that off. And that was it for me. Thank you.
Collins?
Yes, I also attended a board meeting of DSAB on October 10th. And I have a report here that happened in my ward from Councillor Fellner, that the Swords Bridge has been repaired and trail should now be open again. There was 25 volunteers that and a couple of my neighbors were there as well, from various snowmobile clubs led by South Seguin. And the materials totaled $29,000 to repair the bridge, and it was purchased by Park to Park. Yep.
Spaghetti?
Thank you, Mayor. October 9th, Committee of Adjustment meeting, October 10th, meeting of the Library Board, October 11th, I attended the meeting in Rosso with yourself and Councillor Finson. I thought it was very productive. It dealt not only with accessibility issues to the nursing clinic, but also overall in the West Perry Sound area. So it wasn't, I thought it was very productive, and hopefully moving forward, there'll be a benefit to the community. October 12th, I was able to go to Pumpkin Fest. First time I haven't got wet going there. Thank you, Councillor Finson. Yeah. October 15th, I had a quarterly meeting for the Rosso Nursing Station as well. October 17th, we finally had the first meeting of the West Perry Sound Police Services Board. It's been quite a chore for the getting it up and running, but it is up and running. It's in its infancy. There's some funding responsibilities. I'll be speaking to Jason later in the week in regards to that. Minor funding responsibilities we will have. So because we haven't had meetings through the year with the advisory committee, the numbers that I'll give you are for the first 9 months of the year, for the first 3 quarters. The benefit, things have stayed basically the same, other than we've had about a 29% decrease in property crime, and a 43% decrease in violent crime, which includes a substantial decrease in sexual offenses. There has unfortunately been an increase in mental health act occurrences. We've gone from 16 to 28 in the community. One of the areas of concern that I brought forward was that the OPP no longer is, or they haven't reported yet in regards to the number of times that the crisis intervention team that is working out of the OPP detachment have responded in Seguin. So we had the meeting. I've asked them to go back and make that part of the reporting process for us. That's still a pilot project. And I think it's important that we see the results of it, and that we as a council can push the province to make that a permanent, hopefully make that a permanent position within it. And really that, we'll see how it moves forward. The next meeting will be in January. Things will be solidified. There's some work that has to be done by the CAOs before that, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski.
Yes, I've been relatively quiet in terms of comments from the residents. The only comments really related to the fiber optic, as you were mentioning, with spools of cable lying around and so on, and my own comment. But I think a lot of the people are starting to close up their cottages, and probably their priorities are more on that than talking about any issues with the township. Or we could take a positive approach and say that there were really no issues and people are happy. Thank you.
Councillor Adams.
It's been very quiet for me the last 2 weeks. But tonight I have to attend a chamber meeting, and on the 24th, I'm going to the small business week. That's all.
Thank you. On October 9th, Jason and I both attended a Belvedere briefing that was very similar to what we saw tonight. And that night there was also a municipal services board meeting for the rec center. Right now, it's good news at those meetings. The footings are being poured as we speak. The dollars are starting to come in. And I think overall, the public believes it's really going to happen now. So keep the good news moving. And when you hear some of the funny misinformation, stick your neck out and correct it. Like there's going to be no heat in the pools and no heat in the building. Where people get these ideas is bizarre. So fix the misinformation when you have a chance. The 10th was a Perry Sound Area Municipal Airport Commission. And again, things are going pretty well. October 11th, both Councillor Finson and Getty referred to the meeting that the community in Rosso got our MPP to agree to a sit-down meeting. They loaded the table with all kinds of gooey cookies and stuff. And hopefully he can fix some of the things that aren't even related to healthcare, like telephone systems and doors that are locked. And it was an eye opener for all of us. The 12th, the Pumpkin Festival, I have to say congratulations to the volunteer committee that came together after last year's Pumpkin Committee said, we're never doing it again. And this year's Pumpkin Festival was outstanding. More vendors, more games for the kids. Somebody were organized, fantastic weather, but everybody was happy and it put Rosso on the map. One of the volunteers, Sarah Mahan, was wearing, as many of you may know, a pretty funny orange witch's hat the whole time and got stopped by Tourism Ontario, who happened to be there because they were nearby and asked if they could write an article about Rosso and the Pumpkin Festival. They didn't even know it existed. So, you know.
It's amazing, I just have to say.
Yeah, she is an amazing person. She's the sister-in-law of one of our employees. And I hope October 13th and 14th, you all had wonderful Thanksgivings and some turkey with your families. The October 15th Lunch and Learn at Rosso had a few hiccups, but it was well attended. And I don't know that the residents realized that the caterer had forgotten, but we pulled it off. And every day that I have extra time, I am asking for money for the rec center with everybody I can. So that's busy and taking up a lot of my time. October 17th, as a result of the mayor's lunch for the business committee, Jason and I had an opportunity to sit down with the new CEO of Crofters and understand what the Frontenac Holding Company wants out of Crofters. And he reassured us it's not moving anywhere. It's a vital piece of manufacturing infrastructure in Seguin. So it was interesting to meet him. On October 18th, which was last Friday, Jason and I attended a rural economic development chit chat. I don't know what it was really, with Minister Thompson, Minister Dunlop, and Graydon Smith and Severin. There were lots of municipalities there, and they said they were there to listen to what our priorities were. I hope it has some impact on their policies. I want to go all the way back to October 3rd, when some of us attended an announcement. The NOHFC board was actually meeting in Parry Sound that day, and I think the next day, I think it was a 2-day meeting. Anyways, we attended an evening reception, and I wanted to alert you to an announcement that was made that surprised many of us. As you know, we often say we're the first municipality in Northern Ontario because we are the first municipality that is eligible for NOHFC funding. Greg Rickford announced that he was putting in place to make Muskoka part of Northern Ontario, and he surprised everyone in the room except for Muskoka, I think. You may have read in the paper that Councillor Borneman brought it up at a recent Parry Sound council meeting, suggesting that there should be some letter writing. And I guess I'm asking whether we should do it. It's difficult because you don't want to be sour grapes and say to the guy next door that's your friend, Muskoka, you can't have any money. But on the other hand, the district of Muskoka is huge. And unless the pot of funds gets bigger because they're in it, it's going to hurt all of the municipalities that have traditionally been in Northern Ontario. So I ask you to think about it and whether it should be on a future agenda to discuss what action we should take. I don't want to be sour grapes, but on the other hand, it changes our marketing significantly. The other thing I wanted to mention is normally we do CAO performance reviews in November and December. And in some discussions with Christine and Jason, you're going to get the forms from me kind of in January, early February, because evaluating our CAO now doesn't really evaluate what he did in 2024. And we're in the middle of budgets and stuff. So we're going to try and move it more to the calendar. So you'll be getting that activity in January from me. And that's it. And I hope on your list, you've got Santa Claus Parade.
Not yet.
Okay.
Too early for Santa Claus Parade on my list. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. A couple quick updates from the township staff. We are encouraging our own staff, members of council, and the community to drop off non-perishable food items at the municipal office and our community centers throughout the township over the coming months as part of our holiday food drive. All donations will go to Harvest Share and Perry Sound, and yes, it's an early start, but there's an early need. The Township's Recreation and Culture Committee is hosting 2 upcoming events, the Halloween Howl on October 31st from 5 to 7 at the Humphrey Community Center, and the Orville Christmas Market on November 9th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Orville Community Center. I think both of these were already mentioned, but please feel free to visit the Township website or Seguin Facebook page for details on both events. Lots of activity happening over at the Humphrey Community Center, including the canteen will soon be opening to the public with a variety of refreshments available to the patrons. It's been closed for quite some time now, so we're excited to see that open up. And the arena will also soon launch Live Barn, which allows hockey games to be live streamed. So again, watch our social media and website for details on that. And the township is in the early stages of evaluating the township's brand. This process includes engaging with residents, businesses, and community stakeholders. So stay tuned for details on how to get involved in that process as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, now we have, yes. Motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee meeting minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and addendum for October 21st, 2024 meeting of council. Can we move over? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 4:34 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. Could I have a mover? Greg and Ken. All in favor? Thank you. And it'll take us a minute for Andrea to unmute, undo whatever she does. Are you good? Okay, guys, behave. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby rise from the closed session and declare the regular meeting reconvened at 5:14 p.m. Mover, Ken and Greg. And all in favor? And I have a motion that the bylaw number 2024-103 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meetings of council is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a mover? Mario? Gail? All in favor? Oops. And I have motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting of council at 5:15 p.m. to meet again on Monday, November 4th, or at the call of the mayor. Gail, and a seconder. All in favor. Thank you. Have a good evening. Enjoy summer.